movies about gladiators.
Those men wanted to have sex with me.
Great Scott!
Nice beaver.
Cinderella boy.
Ramble is a pussy. Come with me if you want to live.
Hello and welcome. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And welcome to Retro Ramble. As you might have guessed it, we are still brothers and we are still not lovers.
We're still brothers who grew up on a healthy diet of films and enjoy rambling about it. The purpose of this podcast is to take a look back at the films we remember most fondly. Films that are worth discussing for one reason or the other, good or bad.
And this week, it's sexy space Nazi classic, Starship Troopers. What year is it? Who's the president, George?
Charlie, we're still in 1997. There's been some great films we've talked about previously, but there's been classic films like Grosse Pointe Blank, Men in Black, The Full Monty, Con Air, personal favourite of mine, Gattaca, but some not so great films as well. Films like Speed 2 and Lost in Space. Do you remember seeing that? We saw it at a cinema in America, if I remember rightly, when we were away skiing. And I'm actually scared to admit that I think we used to like it.
Is that the one with the terrible CGI space monkey and a overweight Matt LeBlanc? I definitely don't remember seeing that film with you, George, and that is my official statement on the matter and all I have to say. Anyway, without another moment, George, just take us through the sexy housekeeping.
So, one more time, we are not film journalists. We do not work in the film industry. We are movie fans. We're also new to podcasting, so there may be the occasional glitch, issues with the audio quality, the audio editing.
A wine glass being set down.
For example. Laughing at our own jokes. There may be the occasional bad impression, and I think in this... I think in this particular episode there are some shocking attempts. I'm not going to say which actor, but we give it a good go. So yeah, in the words of Airplane,
got me some slag, yeah.
As usual, we're going to focus on this film in particular. And then afterwards, we may do a little bit of a roundup and talk about the mediums we're currently consuming. So, be it books, TV series, games, mobile games,
board games, love games,
not love games.
Okay, no more love games.
But anything that we are consuming and we may deem it's entertaining and that we should share it with your very good ears.
We hope that we might inspire you to go back and revisit some of these films for yourself. The chances are, well, what we expect is that you're listening to this because you either love the sound of our dulcet tones or you've seen these films before, you know the story, you know what happens, but out of courtesy, we just want you to know there will be spoilers. We will be focusing on set pieces.
Michael Ironside
mainly. What happens at the end?
Michael Ironside.
The second and third films, which we don't cover in every way. What else?
Other people that aren't Michael Ironside.
One of the best things in the film Total Recall, which I would have to say for my money, is
Michael Ironside and Arnie screaming.
So I guess that's it. We've got the pod all queued up. George is just currently rewinding the cassette and
loading up the tapes. Onto a computer that's the size of a room.
So it's retro. Let's get our ramble on with some Starship Troopers.
Let's go there.
In the future, the greatest threat to our survival will not be man at all. Prepare for battle and journey to the front lines of the next frontier.
Kill them all!
Starship Troopers.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Retro Ramble. This time we will be taking a look at Starship Troopers. My name is Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And once again, we are back in the year 1997, a year when I myself was just a young man of 18 years old. George, you would have been, 14, 15?
14 years old, yes.
So even more impressionable.
Indeed.
So,
Indeed.
George, I'll let you really set us off. Give us an introduction on kind of how this film came about. I mean, obviously, we're both everyone will know about RoboCop, and people should know Total Recall, two big films.
So this is almost like an unofficial sort of sci-fi trilogy from Paul Verhoeven, who's a Dutch director. Yeah, probably most famous, as you say, for RoboCop and the original Total Recall. The less said about the remake, the better. So yeah, Starship Troopers is. I think that there's definitely themes that run across all three. I think Starship Troopers shares a lot with RoboCop in terms of the whole satire element, and that is probably no surprise because it's the same writer, Ed Neumeyer. The film itself is an adaptation of a 1950s sci-fi novel by Robert Heinlein, I think it is. I tried reading it when I was in my teens, and it's actually quite dull and quite heavy going. Verhoeven is quoted as saying the same thing. I think he said he gave up because it was so dull and boring. He couldn't finish the novel. But it's essentially a very fascistic take on military and the approach to war. And I think, as we're going to delve into, the film takes those elements that were played straight in the book, that were, portrayed as straight, and puts a satirical spin on it. And it really works for the film, as I say, we're going to jump into. But it's essentially, the story is three friends from school who all go into different lines in the military. So there's our lead,
Mobile Infantry.
Yeah, the amazingly named Johnny Rico, who ends up with the Mobile Infantry. You've got Doogie Howser, MD, or Barney Stinson, Neil Patrick Harris himself as the geeky psychic, quasi-fascist, intelligent Stasi-like guy, but with a sense of humour. Type, yeah. But with a lovely sense of humour. He's looking out for his mates. And the lovely Denise Richards as a lovely pilot. And intertwining stories about a intergalactic war with a very violent and very horrible alien bug insectoid race. I think just known as the bugs, really.
But so Verhoeven, everything about that is. I mean, he really goes to town. I mean, what made him great in Total Recall and RoboCop? I don't know, would you call it like gore porn? Or I mean, he's using, it's turned up to 11. It's a beautiful use of, what do you call this technology that they were using to do some of these effects? It's like, it's none of this. There's some
prosthetics.
Yeah, but he's really. I think I watched this in DVD because I have the DVD. I don't have it on Blu-ray, and I'd be interested now to have a quick look and see how it stands up on Blu-ray, because kind of the same as when I tried to watch The Phantom Menace again before the last Star Wars film came out. I got out the DVD, put it in the PlayStation, and it just looked ropey because I've got so used to watching Blu-ray. So this looked good, and I think it's a good mix of there's obviously some clear CGI explosions, but there's a good mix of prosthetics and CGI, and I think he handles it pretty well.
I completely agree. It's funny, I was telling one of our mates about that we were going to look at this film recently, Mr. George Feeney. He actually pointed out, he said, it's a great film, it's entertaining, but the effects really don't hold up, it's really dated. And I'm sorry, George, I beg to differ.
I'm going to have to hold you up there, George. I think if you sit it alongside some of the other films that came out that year, I think it does pretty all right.
There's some patchy bits, but overall the bug design is amazing, and I think I'm right in saying that the special effects head guy is a guy called Phil Tippett, and I think he was one of the key people behind Jurassic Park as well, so obviously got pedigree there.
You've just reminded me, that's what it looks like when you criticise the effects in this, or to get back to our good friend George Feeney, who's now going to be obviously in this podcast forever. It's no worse than Jurassic Park, and everybody tips the hat to that now still.
Well, that's it. If you look at getting a bit geeky in terms of really good CGI, it's the the light shades, like the way the light falls on the 3D models. And it's really good on the bug design. Like, you can see they do feel they've got that weight to them as well. They don't look like airy-fairy. They lumber around. They're a bit clumsy. They move. They're not all moving together as like they've just repeated the animation loads. Well, they probably have, but it's very unnoticeable. And yeah, that's as you picked up on before. The Verhoeven he's not everyone's cup of tea. He's very much, well, the guy's a crazy Dutchman. He's very much, he's come from the sort of Dutch exploitation cinema, and it's very generalizing.
Was Basic Instinct? Basic Instinct.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So he was known.
He doesn't believe in holding back, bless him. Subtlety isn't his forte. Like, he wants to shock, delight, and yeah, as you say, there's that. The gore is so so excessive. It's humorous. It's a similar take as Tarantino. He takes that. He makes gore so ridiculous. It's laughable, but I suppose the theatre, the whole spectacle. I should say.
So Act 1. Like, if we look at the start of this film, what's worth picking up on? I mean, when I watched this, I mean, they very quickly, like, some good narrative. It's hammered home that there are citizens and civilians and service
means citizenship.
Yeah. And the social scientists, I love it how they refer to that, have failed.
Yeah.
Society's failed, and luckily the veterans have come in, exuding what can only be martial law. So, I mean, it's set up very quickly. The city looks like something out of a Star Trek film, but I mean, it passes as being futuristic. The technology at the time, the classroom environment. I think we're gonna touch on Michael Ironside at some point. I think maybe halfway through this. Big fan, both of us being big fans of that guy.
I think we might be in danger of this turning into the Michael Ironside podcast.
So we'll try and rein it back on that. But I mean, what stands out for you in the, before they, because obviously this is all building up to them going into space to fight these bugs. What stands out to you before they actually go through that?
I agree. I think the plot is really quickly summed up in that news report, and the news reports throughout are used, really effectively, and obviously a nice comic relief. But they pretty much sum up why we're at war with the bugs, and just the simple fact of Clendathu must be destroyed. This is where Earth is. This is where Clendathu is, and I just love the sort of animation. Let's blow the planet. You quickly establish the main characters, their relationships, and setting up that sort of, there's lots of future building type stuff. Some of it works. You've got the psychic abilities. Johnny Rico has psychic ability 0, acting ability 0. But, we'll get onto that later. I think it's the closest thing we're going to get to see in terms of the game of speedball, that futuristic indoor rugby.
Is it basketball?
Is it basketball? Is it gymnastics? Because some of the flips that Johnny Rico does.
It's mixed. Looks fun.
It looks a lot of fun. I was a little bit, and I remember being really confused when I saw this at the cinema. Why is it set in Buenos Aires? Why are there no Latin American people around? But I think that's part of the satire.
I think it's that society's fallen, the icebergs have melted, or stuff like that. North America's flooded, everybody's moved down, and that's why Denise Richards is called Ibanez.
Well, Johnny Rico.
Yeah. So, and maybe with all when this film was made, predominantly white Northern Americans flooding into Southern America away from the water or whatever, they've balanced it out. So
that's a lot of backstory you've just established there, John.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say I read the comics or anything. I think
I may have watched all the animated spin-offs.
We're going to talk about the deleted scenes, because you're talking about how some things are set up for the future, and I think we'll talk about that at the end, because that was obviously a DVD bonus. But all the scenes that have been deleted, if they'd been left in, this would have been a completely different film, and I'll explain why in a bit. But for me, really just focusing on what are Johnny Rico's motivations for going. It's the girl. It's like Denise Richards, Carmen. She's going because she's smart, and Doogie is going because he's smart, and Rico's going because Rico's going because he's got a hard on. And mind you, to be fair to him, it pays off. He gets the girl before he goes away. So that brings us to the Enchantment Under the Moon dance.
In my notes here, I've got, in the future, music will still sound like the same generic 90s grunge pop.
To quote,
just awful music.
To quote a line I heard Nathan Drake say in the last Uncharted 4, he says, "Nothing better than a good bit of douchey European techno." It's something in the middle of like indie, grunge, techno, but yeah, it's like nobody's using radio mics, there's still backing singers and all of that, and everyone's still wearing the same sort of tuxes. Anyway, it's kind of funny.
The one thing I picked up on in that dance scene was we saw an early foreshadowing of Barney Stinson, sleazy Neil Patrick Harris, doing the dancing in, and I was like, it's Barney! Yeah,
he's like jumping between personas.
And I think that's the funny thing out of all the people in this film. When we first saw it, I don't think anyone would say, that guy, in 20 years, that guy's going to be, the highest paid person out of all of them, or the biggest, name in Hollywood.
Well, you see, the thing is, you probably don't remember as well as I do, because I was 18 at the time, but when this film came out, it was like, what the hell? That's Doogie Howser. And everyone was like, oh, how random is that? Doogie Howser's turned up in this, like what we were calling at the time, this kind of B movie. I mean, it was in the age, it was a big year, as a reason why we're focusing on 97. But it was kind of like, even then, it was like, oh, look who's turned up. And so, in a way, I thought that was like, oh, well, his career's over. Here he is. He's got a little, this is all he can get now. He's done TV. He's got a little spot, So, we had no idea, because they were like, it was like that David Schwimmer money. By the end of it, they were all getting paid like $1 million an episode, just like Friends, weren't they?
Well, yeah, exactly. And he's been like hosting. Did he host the Oscars?
He's done at least MTV and Oscars. Yeah.
But obviously, this film was a launching platform for Denise Richards, which I've got in my notes. Lovely girl. Obviously she's a stunning girl. Terrible actress.
Oh, I mean, we'll talk about what worked and what didn't work in terms of the cast. But if anybody appears like a TV actor in this film, it's her.
Well, I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, obviously, this launched the career of Casper Van Dien, and
career?
Those other films he was in. Remember?
I don't know any other film he's been in apart from, wasn't he in one of these sequels? I don't know.
He came back for the third one, apparently. I haven't seen any of the sequels, but apparently they're all. There's some really nice, if we just stay on the casting for a little bit, there's some nice little bit part actors in there. So you've got Clancy Brown, who is Sergeant Zim, the drill instructor,
from
also
Shawshank.
known as the Kurgan from Highlander.
Kurgan. I forgot that was him. Yeah.
You've actually got two Highlander villains, because you have the Kurgan and you have Michael Ironside is the bad guy from the horrible Highlander 2, which could be a potential podcast film in the future.
Good knowledge.
Don't thank me, thank IMDb.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Clancy Brown. I think he's a great sort of character actor, and he does seem to be stuck with the military sort of role. So whether he's person of authority, as you say, you've picked up on Shawshank. He's played a general many times. I think he's been a general on The Flash. He was a general. I was going to say, he was in something in Daredevil Series 2. He was, as part of the Punisher storyline.
Yeah.
And you've also got randomly in the cast Gary Busey's kid, Jake Busey.
Yeah, he's done a few films, but not many. Wasn't he in The Frighteners? Or was that actually?
He was. He was a bad guy in The Frighteners.
Because we both watching and saying, is that Jake Busey? Couldn't tell. Act 2?
Act 2. Well, actually, I don't know where it falls, but in terms of the would you like to know more? The little news bits. One of the ones, the lines I don't know you've picked up on, which I found hilarious. The state execution. Catch the execution live at 6 on all channels.
Yeah, it's just like, don't miss it. We've laughed about this for years, and I think when we talked about doing this film, you sent me the "Would you like to know more" video of
Everyone's doing their part. Are you?
The mother's maniacal laugh as all the kids are stamping on the books.
Oh, they're just, all the news clips are brilliant, but I think that is my favourite one with the mother/teacher laughing hysterically as the kids smash all those cockroaches.
So we get into the training, which I enjoyed. I mean, obviously, it's great to see what would training be like in the future with futuristic weapons. They're still using normal ammunition, but they're actually got amazing laser tag. But there's some great introduction of the characters who are going to be with us. Some of them for a very short amount of time, some of them for just the right amount of time. I thought that was a nice meaty bit in the middle, and just to finish, it also blends nicely into Act 3. I think it's sort of like training, then it's action. At the end.
I actually forgot how long they actually spend at the training camp, and it's nice. It does sort of feel like any other military coming of age type film. We've seen the training in Vietnam films, so it's great to see that same formula, but with a futuristic spin. I really like that.
With the Verhoeven satirical, all of the are you okay? Yeah, it's just my arm. I think it's broken. Medic.
Oh yeah. And one of my favorite bits I forgot about. So why do we need knives in space? And he just pins the guy's hand to the wall. If you cannot use the button.
It's genius.
The great thing about Paul Verhoeven is his love of gore and some really convincing practical prosthetic special effects. Arms being torn off.
The training exercise. Sorry, the live fire exercise. I think Dean Norris. I think that's what he said in his casting, and that they were like, "You've got the job." So what else do I say? Oh well, only 3 other lines, but that was the line that got him the work. It's like live fire. I mean, I love that guy. He's in Terminator. Obviously, he's got he's renowned now because of Breaking Bad, but he's one of those guys who worked his socks off in films like Terminator 2. What else has he been in? He's been in so many other little things. There's Starship Troopers. I mean, you go, guys, if you're interested, go and check it out on IMDb. Dean Norris. That guy has earned his place in history as a bit part actor to being a main part of Breaking Bad, which will go down as one of the most successful TV series of all time. So good for him.
Still haven't seen it.
Well, I still haven't watched Game of Thrones. So in your face.
Right into complain. From the training, we go into the war with the first drop zone, which is the huge mistake. And I love the cliches of the people shaking in the troop transport. And,
someone being sick.
Someone being sick. My favourite line that I think I still use from time to time: "Remember your training, and you will stay alive." And I think there's a nice little nod to RoboCop when they just casually say in that first battle, "Nuke 'em!" Because they have small. I couldn't get my head around. They've got small arm nuclear bombs.
Just carry in your back pocket, sort of like shoulder surface to a nuke.
Shoulder.
Nuke 'em, Rico.
I love the fact that they just were using nuclear bombs like they were going out of fashion.
Yeah.
There's a few Star Wars references, the big, huge spaceships. I thought the bit where we see Johnny Rico in the health tank was a
very Luke Skywalker
sort of homage. Is it now time to talk about how awesome Michael Ironside is?
I think it's time to talk about Rotax Roughnecks and the Beast.
I've got one rule. Everyone fights. No one quits.
That guy is amazing. Him and Paul Verhoeven. And everything that guy's done.
What a partnership.
But it's his delivery. I mean, from the very off. Oh, he's got no arm. Oh, right. Okay. So he's I don't know if you thought it, but I was thinking he's got to have a bigger role in this. But you still don't see it coming. Like his entrance, it's like him walking in and how he clocks them, but he doesn't change his face. And they're just like, oh my God. And it's still, oh, it's our hero. It's the guy's just amazing.
I've got my notes why does Ironside only have one arm? Like, question mark. But I suppose it just turns out it just makes him more of a badass. That he's got, like, a robotic arm.
That he's seen action? He's seen action. He's willing to make the sacrifice. Yeah, and that is the one that he's seen that military action before he's lost his arm. He's given, he's earned his right to be a teacher and citizen, and more importantly, that if he's needed again, he's so badass that he's going to come back in. But everything he says, every bit of delivery, he is, in the words of many other actors, eating up the scenery. Like, he's not scared of the bugs, he's not scared of dying, he's not scared of anything. And when he clocks Rico, there's that, they have that lovely, I think, which is a great moment, which kind of sort of brings into focus the fog of war, where Rico does that whole move on the back of the bug, throws in the grenade and it blows up. Where did you learn to do that? And he was like, I played football at school, do you not remember? And he just kind of like, that's when he remembers and he smiles. And obviously, he's so in the zone. I mean, that's such good acting. It's like, in the fog of war, I don't remember. I remember you from school, but I don't remember. That was another life. So I thought that was a good, maybe it was just great acting from him. I think it was.
I think it's fair to say that he is the MVP for this film.
Definitely.
I just wanted to see more of him. You miss him when he's gone. And who else can deliver the line with such conviction? They've sucked his brains out. And that look of pure horror. And I was
General,
like,
get a hold of yourself, General.
So yeah, I think I've got my notes. Thank God for Michael Ironside. He's just God bless him. He really pulls this.
He's so good in Total Recall as well. He's such he is the bad guy in that. He is. It's like
what's his name again in Total Recall?
Ramble.
You are the body.
Sorry, George. Sorry, say it again. What was that?
You're the body, Victor. Oh, sorry. I was edging towards Zed from Police Academy towards the end there.
We love him. Michael Ironside, we salute you.
Yes, we salute you, Mr. Ironside. The other bit I've got in my notes here, I mean, that scene where they're in the, retreat into the compound where they're making that last stand. Great scene. I remember special effects, great stakes.
Yeah, I think you're really into the film. Yeah, because you're really into the film then, because like when they arrive with the Roughneck, what? This is like, I'm going, okay, so they've done one route, they got their asses kicked. Now they're with a seasoned veteran elite group. Oh, and it's run by the teacher from school. This is amazing. So you're comfortable with everybody. You're comfortable with the setup. You know that Rico is following his mentor, and that mentor's got kind of like, he's got a soft spot for Rico because, he's like quoting words from the text in the class. And then you see, and I can remember, because obviously we'll talk about the deleted scenes, but I watched the teaser trailer, which nowadays wouldn't be a teaser trailer. It would just be a trailer, but and it showed that scene, and it actually got me really, because I watched it before I watched the film, and it got me really excited. I was like, oh, that scene is one that sticks with you. It's the sort of Lord of the Rings. Darkness is descending. It's coming over the hills. Oh, sorry, CGI darkness is coming to kill you. Obviously, it's a bit more. I mean, even Lord of the Rings looks dated now. This does look dated, but I can remember at the time just thinking, they're fucked. They're totally screwed.
Yes, so screwed right now.
Sorry, just to finish off, because it's something you and I always do when we watch a film. Have you got a line in your notes about slightly hilarious death of the general?
Oh, yes. And they even look at each other and just go,
yeah, it's because I was thinking, do they? I remember this being funny because I could see it coming. The bug that gets shot and it goes down, it takes out the general. For those who need a reminder, and when it happens, Rico's using this feature on his gun that we didn't realize, which is cool. It's the shotgun attachment to take out the flying thing, and it takes out the general. And yeah, as you say, they both kind of look at each other. Now, I don't think Jake Busey is smiling. I think it's just his Busey face. It's like either
his
grin,
massive mouth.
It kind of looks like a grin, because I looked at it carefully, and Rico is like, whoops, and he was like, whoops, but like you, the audience, it is a hilarious moment, just like that shriveling general of a man has just been accidentally killed,
in that whole scene, you've got the general gets taken out comically.
There's a lot of death.
You've got the flying bugs. I think there's like 3 decapitations in like 10 seconds.
No reason.
And there's also again probably a nod back to the toxic waste from RoboCop. The guys that are running to the troop transport that get melted alive by the giant bug. You know, there's so much death going on. You know, there's people getting chomped left, right, and centre, melted, decapitated. It's just great.
But there's obviously, there's a lot of emotion in this closing scene, because you've got...
Well, you lose Ironsides.
We've got that, you know what to do. And that is a moving moment, because you see him looking at him down the sights, and it's like, that's their relationship coming to an end. It's him, hammering the last nail in the coffin. And you're like, oh my God, because you're thinking, oh, he's still alive. He's got no legs. And you're like, wait a minute, he's got no arm. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what he's Ironside. That's what
a soldier's death.
Yeah. And then you've got Diz, it's kind of telegraphed when Rico bangs her. You're just like, she ain't gonna make it. And
I've got my notes. She gets a good over the top death scene. It's getting cold. So cold.
At least I got to have you. Yeah. And he's like, okay, yeah. He said, kiss me, Frank. I know what's that from. That's from something else. That's from
it's from
Charlie
Loaded
Sheen.
Weapon, I think.
What?
It's Loaded Weapon, isn't it? Kiss me cold.
Yeah, and he's like, she's covered in blood. No, genius. And then obviously the reuniting of Carmen and Johnny. As you say, when Ironside goes, it's kind of like we talked about Air Force One, when when the really good, strong actor force in it goes, like Gary Oldman goes in Air Force One, you're like, oh yeah, it's just, can these other actors? It's a good ending, but it's kind of by the numbers.
Yeah, it does end on a sort of a bit of a whimper, and I think that's, if anything, it's one of the film's few flaws is it builds up a great story, and then it kind of and they'll continue fighting to see another day. Yeah, it kind of builds it up for the sequels that no one's ever seen or no one really wanted.
And didn't actually follow straight after the film either, if I remember correctly.
No, but I did a bit of reading before, and apparently the first sequel, Starship Troopers 2, completely dismisses the satire and sends it up as a really cheaply, badly acted action film. And the third one brings back, what's-his-face, Casper Van Dien, and it's written and directed by Ed Neumeyer, the original writer, and apparently brings back the satire, but again is on a shoestring budget with some pretty bad acting.
I think I've just seen glimpses of that. It was on telly once, and our mutual friend Bryce watched, and I was like, what's it like? He goes, well, it's pretty funny. And I was like, okay. He says, but it's also pretty bad. Yeah, so I don't know. I thought the plot was solid. As I say, we've been able to pick out the structure. Verhoeven knows what he's doing. There's an Act 1, 2, and 3. It's scary. It's thrilling. It's got action in it. It's sexy. It's creepy.
Yeah. Well, I've got down here as alternate title, Sexy Space Nazis.
Like it?
Well, they're Nazis. They're in space. They're all very beautiful people.
That funeral where Doogie Howser turns up dressed like completely the Stasi. He's just like, yep, I've even got my coat on, even though we're in a climate-controlled ship. Yep, I've got my big Nazi coat on. Yeah, I thought that was funny. But I do think that the film squeezes a lot in. As we talked about at the beginning, it is the story, a journey of 3 friends in an intergalactic war. So yeah, I mean, in terms of bringing what worked, the music is good, full orchestral stuff. I liked it. I don't know about you. I mean, we joked about the 90s stuff, but you can't get away from your timed references. I mean,
I really liked the orchestral stuff. I thought it was going to be our man from Air Force One and RoboCop and Total Recall, Jerry Goldsmith, but it's I can't even remember it's a very forgettable composer off the top of my head. It's got that sort of brassy, triumphant, macho war type theme. I think it's got the soundtrack's very good. 90s High School Musical stuff aside.
Yeah, and I think we talked enough about the effects at the start. I like the fact that there's a mixture of, which kind of the recent Star Wars film gone back to, there's a mixture of physical and graphic, CGI. But this was when, CGI was, let's just call it the Jurassic Park stage. So very much in its infancy. But I think I like the mix. I think we've talked about that. If there's anything else you want to add, I would like to see what this looks like in Blu-ray, just for curiosity,
Well, now I've got some. All I've got here is in terms of I've got some facts, but now in terms of I think, and this sort of ties up with the what works, what doesn't. I think the film is guilty of, if anything, the satire is too subtle, and I think some audiences didn't get the satire element; they just saw it as a gung-ho military action film.
Have you got some examples? I thought you were going to read out some reviews going, I don't get this film.
Oh, no.
We're not going to embarrass anyone.
I haven't got... No, I'm not doing the second opinion. No, I think, as you say, there's many ways you can look at it. You can look at it. You've got a nice structure throughout, even though it does sort of tail off towards the end. You've got the story of the three friends. They're reunited at the end. You've got some nice sort of callbacks throughout the film. So whether it's between Rico and, Michael Ironside or Radchek, you've got, the callbacks to his, football and stuff. But I also liked, whilst it's got this overly fascist tone, I liked the whole spin on, the equality in the future, the fact that, that you've got a lot of strong female roles in the film, you've got female captains, the women are more, in most cases are more intelligent than the men. And obviously you've got the gratuitous in the future we'll all shower together scene. So,
awesome.
which is nice. Which apparently was filmed, even Paul Verhoeven and his cinematographer were in the nude when they filmed that.
So Dutch.
Apparently, so Dutch. But yeah, I've a few facts. We can go, or we could jump into casting coulda, shoulda.
Let's do it. The casting, that was one of the things that worked about this film, but this film didn't work for all of the cast. So I think, we've talked about Barney, is it Patrick Neil Harris? What's his name?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Put them in whatever order you want. We've got Ironside, Dean Norris, Denise Richards had she had a career. But yeah.
Worst Bond girl ever.
Worst lines, let's just not talk about that. So George, tell us who could have been cast.
Well, there's actually two very interesting coulda, shoulda. The first one is Mr. Marky Mark Wahlberg.
Are you kidding me?
Apparently he turned the role down.
Get the hell out of here.
And I can just imagine him sort of, on Clondathu looking side to side, shrugging his shoulders, going, huh? What? What's going on?
Well, I got to pronounce my lines. I'm from Boston.
Let's go down the planet and blow up some bugs. I've got a big gun. I'm going to use it.
Yeah, I'm going to rewrite some of this script because none of you can talk properly. Sorry, we could do Mark Wahlberg impression. Bad Mark Wahlberg.
Very bad. Very bad.
Bad Marky Mark impressions all night, but I'm sure you've got some others. Was there anybody else who could have been cast?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that was for Johnny Rico.
Yeah, sorry, these are both for Johnny Rico.
Okay.
I couldn't find any other casting suggestions. The other one, James Marsden of Westworld, Cyclops of X-Men fame.
Wow, yeah, because he would have been just after or just before X-Men, the first one?
Just before, 2 years before.
Okay.
I think the first X-Men was 99.
Yeah.
I think so. Or it might be in 2000. You can see why he does have that sort of... He's just bloody handsome, isn't he?
Yeah, football player. Would he have pulled off the stupidness? Well, he's doing all right. I think he struggles with that in Westworld.
I mean, he is... I think he's a very underrated actor. I think the man, he should sack his agent. Well, he's obviously doing quite well at the moment with Westworld, but I think he's deserved to do a lot more.
Such a dreamboat.
He's a dreamboat, but he's quite a talented guy. He's quite funny as well. If you've seen, even though it's quite a sort of left field suggestion, but the film Enchanted, the Disney film where it's all about the Disney characters in the real world, and he plays Prince Charming, and he's one of the funniest things in it because he's playing such an idiot.
Pass.
It's worth a watch. Honestly.
Okay. Maybe if I'm ill, I might check it out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so yeah, they're the casting coulda, shoulda. I've got a question for you. How many gallons of fake blood do you think were used in the making of this film?
Ooh, good question. I'm just trying to remember. There's quite a bit. There's bits there. Oh, no. Yeah, because there's some of the sets are just drenched in it. I don't know. I'm going to say 5 to 10 gallons. Surprising.
17 gallons of fake blood.
Jesus.
And apparently, I don't know how accurate this fact is, but according to IMDb, at the time, it was the most amount of live ammo fired for a film.
Yeah, so it was actually real. Yeah, because I can believe, there's that bit where they go
all the training, and there's a lot of gunfire.
Yeah, there's a lot of gunfire, and that's the other thing that kind of keeps it. I wouldn't say too far from the future. It's like, are we going to do lasers? And at some point they're just like, nah, we're not going to have advanced that far. That's why I was talking about props. I thought the guns looked pretty badass. They were good.
Well, interestingly, the very small amount of the book I read, the original novel, they're called the Mobile Infantry because they are all in these sort of
exosuits.
Basically exosuits, mech suits. They're rocket. They can jump high. They can boost about. It's basically like a mechanized suit full of weapons, a bit sort of Iron Man-esque.
Paul, we don't have the budget for this.
Yeah, exactly. Just make them the beautiful people with the big guns.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, and this, speaking of Paul Verhoeven, this is my favourite fact on IMDb trivia. Whilst most bugs are CGI, there were some robotic models used. However, during battle scenes, the actors wound up looking at Paul Verhoeven, who would stand in front of them and jump around and scream to elicit their reactions.
Wow, fly on the wall. That would have been amazing to see.
So yeah, that is my favourite bit of trivia for that film.
Can I talk about deleted scenes, the items on the DVD?
Why don't you enlighten us? How many minutes of deleted scenes were there? Was there more than Air Force One of all 13 minutes?
No, it was about that. It was about 11 or 12 minutes. But obviously, I watched the teaser trailer and then I was like, bonus features. And then deleted scenes, because there's the Johnny and Carmen casting, which is just painful. And you're just like, how did they get the work? But what's hilarious about all of the deleted scenes, what's funny is there's about 6 deleted scenes in total. The one that sticks out isn't actually a deleted scene because it is the last scene of the film. But the first 5 are like something out of Dawson's Creek. Johnny and Carmen talking on campus about him getting 35% and him like totally getting to second base and snogging her. And then there's like those two having a chat about their relationship. And then when, it's her talking with Xander like on 2 or 3 times. So basically it was like Paul, he was trying to make a love story. If you'd left them in, it would have been a military love story. I mean, it's so over the top, and that guy Xander, it's just like, I mean, we didn't talk about it, but I think the whole audience is kind of happy when he gets his brain sucked out. He's kind of like the guy you kind of like, you respect him, but you don't mind seeing him get his brain sucked out.
They what, Johnny?
They sucked his brains out.
Awesome.
I read that actually in the trivia that in test screenings there was supposed to be more of the storyline of the affair between Xander and Carmen, but they cut it because the audience basically thought Denise Richards came off as too much of a bitch.
Yeah, and it's totally like, yeah, she's like, because she's a bitch for both of them. She's a bitch for Johnny. If you take these scenes into account, she's a cock tease at the start. Well, until he says he's going to sign up. I mean, when she starts having the fling with Xander, it's like blatant from these scenes. And then when he's alive, she starts in these deleted scenes, she's just being a bitch to him. So yeah, and also it's just very love triangle. You could see it didn't sell well. As I said, the teaser trailer is basically a trailer by today's standards, because it doesn't actually have the original trailer, which, as we all know, trailers have been getting kind of like, they go through this weird thing. They used to be really long in the 80s, and then they got really short short, and nowadays they reveal too much because they're worried enough people aren't going to the cinema. So yeah, it paid for itself. There's DVD, having those on with everything else, and there's a featurette which I haven't made time to watch. Sorry, it's probably not proper, but to be fair, I checked online and there's nothing really of any merit in that. So yeah, I think that kind of wraps things up from me.
Well,
is there anything else?
The final things I was going to say is, one, like Air Force One, I think it would be pretty tough to make this film in today's world. I mean, I don't want to estimate this, to try and date this podcast, but obviously with our new president-elect, Donald Trump, coming into office, a film like this just seems too on the nose. But
well, the fact that we might be hurtling towards a totalitarian government that was satired in this film. We'll see.
Exactly. But interestingly enough, they have just announced in the past week that the film is going to be remade, and they're going to stick closer to the source novel, apparently. So whether that,
Poe-faced, maybe get Christopher Nolan. We need a Poe-faced version.
Well, that's it. Whether it jettisons militarist fascist tones, we shall see. But an interesting comment I was reading about this article when they announced the remake, they spoke to Paul Verhoeven about it, and he said the reason that they got away with Starship Troopers at the time was that Sony, who were the studio making it, were going through so many staff changes that so many people were being hired and fired that no one was really actually. Well, that's it. Yeah, nobody was checking the rushes. Nobody was saying, Paul, do you think it's a bit over the top? Do you think that the space Nazis are a bit too obvious? And yeah, he basically admits that he got away with it. So yeah, I think it is a very interesting film. It's a very entertaining film. It's not for everybody. If you like Paul Verhoeven,
if you like Total Recall, if you liked RoboCop and Melrose Place, you'll love this.
Exactly. So I think that's all we've got to say on the matter of Starship Troopers.
Would you like to know more?
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Starship Troopers, a great film by Paul Verhoeven. Very enjoyable to watch, to rewatch, and to talk about. George, your thoughts?
I love Paul Verhoeven. He's a crazy Dutch bastard.
Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct. I've watched it many times purely for the directorial sensibilities, the camera angles, the framing, the nods back to Hitchcock.
The gratuitous beaver.
Mainly that. Yeah, we've touched on it already, but he's such a unique director, and I think it's a real shame that this is one of the last good Hollywood films he did. I mean, he followed this with the quite forgettable Hollow Man that we both saw at the cinema and were quite disappointed by.
Some good effects.
Yeah, aside from some good effects, it's a pretty poor film. But yeah, he's a very visionary director. I'm quite embarrassed to say I haven't actually seen any of his later films that he did, like Black Book, and I think he's done a few.
I've seen Black Book. Very depressing. I mean, yeah, I think some of it's based on a true story, but this is a story about a woman and what she has to go through during World War, and her life she just comes across as the most unluckiest woman to ever have gone through anything during the war. So interesting, provocative, a bit of muff, a bit of nipple, typical Verhoeven. But
no chicks with 3 tits, though.
No chicks with 3 tits.
No metal spikes through the head.
Unfortunately not. No hilarious deaths.
So yeah, I think it's some people may see Starship Troopers as a bit of an odd choice. Why didn't we go for RoboCop's a great film, Total Recall's a great film, and no doubt I think we will cover those films.
Oh yeah, fear not. We're just getting started.
But it fits with our theme of our current theme of 1997. It's a film that we both love. There's a lot to love in that film, and I think one of the reasons that film didn't do very well, or it's a little bit of an underrated gem is due to the satire. I think a lot of people, when they first saw it, or from the looks of the trailer, people didn't see that it was a satire.
Yeah, and this is the thing. This is if you go to the cinema with George and I, and whether it's the guy in Jason Bourne who just suddenly jumps out of the window, or as we've mentioned, a guy in Total Recall getting a pipe put through his head, you're sitting next to us and we burst out laughing before anybody else.
Yeah, I actually scared a couple of my work colleagues when I went to see a double bill of RoboCop and Terminator, and the bit in RoboCop where the guy gets doused with toxic waste and is melted and he's going, help me. I was one of the few people laughing manically in the cinema, and my workmates just looked at me and just went, you're sick.
You're twisted.
But yeah, it's the outrageousness of it, and I think Paul Verhoeven is, he's having fun as well, as you should too. So in terms of where we're going next, I think that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, we've got a long list. If you check out our blog, you'll see the films that we plan to cover in. We don't have an exact order in mind. We focused the last 3 podcasts on 1997.
We needed to start somewhere, and just going through our very extensive list of quality blockbusters.
It was a good year. It was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it ticked a lot of boxes. But now we're going to take a leap back 10 more years. So again, to make us all feel very old, we're going to go back 30 years.
Yeah, it's just a small film. You might have heard of it.
It's a small art house documentary. Predator?
Predator.
Oh,
Predator. Not to be confused with Predators.
Predators, no. Action, sweat-soaked, action, macho, sci-fi classic, Predator. Everyone's favourite. Men in the jungle, lots of being men, with a invisible alien picking them off one by one.
Right.
What's not to love?
It's the Governator when he was in his prime, both physically and...
Don't forget, it's also got Apollo Creed in.
Yeah, dramatically. And it's a great film. I would say it's one of our favourite films.
It's probably many people's favourite films.
And that's why we're going to be doing it.
We want to go big as Oni's biceps.
Yeah. Well, we're going to the jungle. It's going to be really hot.
We're going to get hot and sweaty.
We're going to cover ourselves in mud to hide.
Yeah, we're going to do some arm wrestling.
Yeah.
And we might even watch Predator.
Okay. So stay tuned. Please let us know what you think. What you're thinking, like right now. What you'd like us to cover. As I say, the list is online. There's a lot of classics there.
We are learning as we go along. So yeah, any feedback is appreciated. Any suggestions are appreciated. So yeah, please let us know in comments on social media, on our blog, carrier pigeon. Yeah, just let us know.
We hope you enjoyed our podcast on Starship Troopers, and as we've just explained, we will be back with Predator. So
coming soon.
We're going to go and work out a little bit because CIA's had us pushing too many pens. So until next time,
stay safe.
Yeah, and that is a wrap. So I insert this here.
No.
Okay.